Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. Today's session is all about how IT teams can simplify and modernize their print infrastructure with a cloud-first approach. My name is Shannon Voice. I'm a customer marketing manager here at Vasion, and today I will be your moderator. And we are very lucky to be joined by a couple experts in this field. So first, let me introduce Bailey Miller, who is one of our sales engineers, solution engineers. She's going to walk us through why cloud-based output management matters, and then give us a demo of Vasion Output. Followed by Kevin Hill, who is one of our account executives here at Vasion, and he works very closely with organizations who are looking to solve complex printing challenges. Now, I do want to just remind you about the Q&A section. Obviously, many of you found it to post where you're from. We welcome questions to come in throughout the webinar. Please post them in there. If something that our moderators are looking at and they want to answer it during the presentation, then they will. Otherwise, we will get to all of those questions at the end. So with that, let's go ahead and, all right. Bailey, could I have you go to the next slide for me? Oh, there we go. Okay, so before we really get going, let's talk about the challenges many organizations are facing with output management today. So first, we have scalability issues, right? Older infrastructure doesn't scale easily, and managing it can slow innovation and definitely drive up costs. Second, disconnected systems. Many teams are juggling siloed tools and inconsistent data, leading to a slow process and inefficient resource use. And third, a lack of end-to-end automation. Manual processes often result in errors, delays, and a lot of hand-holding just to get documents from point A to point B. So as you can see on the screen here, we've got a couple points, things to consider, and we're going to be covering these as we go throughout the presentation. But I just want to say, we know that sysadmins and IT teams are very tired of putting out fires when it comes to printing and output. And that's why today's session is focused on how a modern cloud-based solution can solve these pain points. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Bailey.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. So now I kind of want to highlight for everyone some of the cracks that we see in these legacy systems when we meet with customers and we learn more about kind of the other options out there that are more legacy. So on the left-hand side here, we have a couple bullet points that list what we see most often with those systems. This can include constant upkeep, and that has to do with possibly maintaining scripts in order to deploy updates to print drivers, or just even to create print queues, maybe across one or more print servers. So that involves, of course, some more complexity to deployment strategies, and therefore draining IT resources. Sometimes we see companies have just a dedicated team to manage back-end print servers, or maybe it's combined into the three-man IT team that kind of does it all. So another thing I'd like to highlight is poor scalability. With these on-prem legacy systems, it's likely the cause that you're going to have to introduce more infrastructure as your company grows. Also leading to having to manage multiple systems, possibly multiple interfaces and logins that you have to go in and use day to day just to get reporting information and push updates. On the right-hand side, we have Vasion Output. And the difference with Vasion Output is you have a lot built into the product already, such as a unified interface. Whether you're managing your back-end printing or your front-end user printing, you have that single login web page that you're going to do and make any changes. You also have built-in high availability and redundancy built into the product. So you can load balance more than one service client to process these jobs, and we'll kind of handle on the back end the routing of those jobs. We meet security compliance, such as our SOC 2 Type 2 and ISO 27001 certifications, so we can help you when it comes to meeting security standards. Another important thing is that we reduce the infrastructure and the associated costs and maintenance from having all of that infrastructure. Since we are a cloud native solution, it's super easy to scale as your company grows, and you're not having to introduce more servers and therefore spending more time maintaining those servers. Now I'm going to go over a diagram to help you understand the difference between a legacy output management system in comparison to Vasion Output. Typically with customers that have an existing solution for output management, they have it set up in one of three different ways. This kind of outlines where maybe your source application is hosted on-prem. It could also be hosted in the cloud. Same goes for your legacy output management solution. That could be on-prem or in the cloud. Each of those setups kind of has their own pros and cons. Maybe if it's on-prem, you have more visibility, but then it's up to you for updates and any changes that you need to make. You're having to do all of that manually. Whereas if it's in the cloud, maybe now it's easily more scalable, but you don't have that complete visibility like you would if it was in your network. And you can see step number 3 here highlights kind of how traditional legacy output management solutions handle the print job. And typically all you can do is send a print job to a printer. Oftentimes we find that customers are looking to do more with those print jobs. And that's where Vasion Output can help. So in this diagram, of course, we would start with your source application, and that would be what's generating the job. The next step is for that source application to send our Vasion Output service client your print job. And that could be done a couple of different ways, maybe through an LPR request, or I'm sorry, an API request. It can be sent as an LPR print job. And then we can also leverage IPP to send that data as well. When the Vasion Output service receives that job, we then have visibility so that you have reporting on how much jobs have been sent, who sent the job, and you have all that visible in an output console where you can see in real time what's going on, as well as some reports that you can generate later on if you need that. Now, at this point, our service would determine what to do next with that print job. And that's where the automation engine comes into play. And you can see there's a lot of options that you have with Output. The AI example could be using Textract and OCR to read the contents of that document and maybe do, say, kick off a workflow with that, or maybe put it to a specific location in storage. And that could be our storage or a cloud storage provider, SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive. Also, you can see we can send it to a printer, so we can do the most basic thing with it. That printer could be on your local network. We could also send it off network to maybe an offsite that you have. We see that a lot with manufacturing or construction. And then we can also send that document in an email. So as you can see, Vasion Output has a lot more to offer when it comes to what you're able to do with that data. All right, and then now let me share out my screen with you guys, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to set up Vasion Output. So notice here in my admin console, I've created my Vasion Output service client. Now, Vasion Output can actually be hosted on-prem or it can be hosted in the cloud. We just launched, we had a spring launch that introduced our cloud version of Output called API Cloud Link. If you wanted to use that, all you would go to is your settings. And then you've got this checkbox to enable the Vasion Output service to run in our cloud, and we manage and host everything for you. The other option is to leverage a service client. You guys might be familiar with this architecture already, but this is just a computer in your environment that has our agent installed on it. And then you have this output automation tab where you go in and you configure whichever service you would like to run. So once you have your domain name filled in, you can set up shared storage and zones. This would be for high availability and redundancy if that's something you're wanting to set up. Down here at the bottom, we have checkboxes where you can just simply enable our LPD, IPP, or API print service. And then coming soon, we will have a direct connection or integration with SAP, and this is where you can enable the SAP connector. Once you have those settings configured, you click Save, and then whatever computer is set up to run those services, you'll start to see them pop up, and then from then you can really test out the product. A couple of other things I want to highlight are the output console and then our rules and routing feature. The output console is where you'll gain visibility to see the print jobs as they're leaving your ERP and coming into the Vasion output service. So this is where you have full control and visibility of those documents. Notice here on the print jobs tab, I've got a couple of jobs that have completed, one that failed. If I were sending a job right now, it would show printing status. So I can see kind of what's happening with that data as it travels through. You also have a batch job tab where you can see any jobs that you've sent as part of a batch and their status, as well as the printers tab. And this will show you more information about the physical printer and its status, kind of what's going on there. The queue is the queue from our Vasion output service to the printer. So for whatever reason, maybe the printer is getting maintained or something went wrong, you can come in here and pause or redirect all print jobs that are going to this queue. You can also do that automatically though, with our rules and routing feature. So I'll show you that next. On the workflow tile, you click new workflow and then set up rules. The first thing you have to select is a trigger, and this is what our output automation service is looking for. Some examples are print job failed, or maybe it's received a job. In my example, I'll do print job failed. I'm going to call this failover. You could give it a description. And in my case, I want to look at a specific printer and make sure if a job fails at this device, I'm going to redirect it automatically to a different one. My next action will be to redirect the job, and then I can select the printer that I want it to go to instead. And this could be useful if maybe the printer's out of paper, if it's out of toner, if there's a paper jam, really any scenario where you would want to automatically redirect that job to a different printer, this is a good scenario for that. In addition to redirecting the job, let's say a user sent this. Obviously, they wouldn't know which printer it was redirected to unless they came in and looked at the rule here. But you can actually have another action set up so that it can send them an email notifying them where we've redirected it to, so that way they're informed. All right, that's all I have for the demo. I am going to hand it back over to Kevin Hill.
Thanks, Bailey. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I work specifically in the healthcare space, so I might know some of you. But it's a great opportunity to be here. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the benefits that you can expect if you move in this type of a direction of combining your front and your back end under one umbrella. And so just imagine the impact that your organization could have if you were able to manage all things print, zebras, everything under the sun through a single pane of glass or a single platform. And that's exactly what we offer is we can simplify even the most complex environments. And so with a single console, you can gain complete visibility into who's printing what. And as you gather that data, you can now start to make business decisions driven by that data, like decommissioning unused printers or consolidating desktop printers into strategically placed multifunction devices with secure printing. And doing that all while gaining access to centralized control over the entire environment. And so in practical terms, this means fewer vendors if you have a vendor in place. That means fewer relationships to manage, contracts to manage, and also point solutions. And we've got seamless integrations with systems like Epic, Cerner, SAP, even custom built applications or homegrown applications. One thing to note on the Epic side is we are in the toolbox, which we're one of 32, I believe, endorsed and recommended Epic solutions, again, in the toolbox. So great company there. And from a cost savings perspective, as Bailey had mentioned, you're eliminating the print servers that are tied to that server side printing, and then reducing the infrastructure associated with that. And so whether it's Windows printing or server side printing from core systems, we can streamline it all under one platform. And from a financial point, just to dive a little bit deeper into that, once you look at vendor consolidation, that alone can unlock substantial cost savings. And so that means fewer vendors, typically equals better pricing terms, volume discounts, and more efficient operations. According to a recent study from CIO.com, 95% of CIOs are either actively consolidating vendors or they plan to in the near future for those very same reasons. And for a quick example, one of our customers had come to us. They were using our cloud native solution for their front end printing, and then they had a separate on-premise solution managing the server side or their back-end printing. And after a few strategic conversations, they were able to realize that they could consolidate everything under one roof, and the cost savings alone justified them moving. And we see that time and time again. If there's a third-party system managing the back end, after those conversations, there's cost savings involved, which is important to every business. But that's great that there's cost savings, but there's also additional benefits that drive from that. So you've got the reduced support complexity for supporting two separate products. You've got the less tools to train your staff on. And then you've got also the eliminated infrastructure that's tied to those on-premise solutions. And so as you break it down, it's not just a cost savings initiative, it also becomes a win for IT, finance, operations. And that's the kind of transformation that Vasion can allow. And then Bailey, do you mind advancing to the next slide? Thank you. And so why now? Why are leading organizations reevaluating their approach? And the answer lies in one word: it's legacy. And so legacy print and output systems were designed for a world that, in my opinion, is slowly fading, where everything lived on-prem. You got environments that were static, or IT had control over devices, locations, but that just doesn't scale. And it introduces security vulnerabilities. It adds unnecessary complexity and inflates the cost of high infrastructure requirements and siloed workflows. And there was a recent study at Foundry that found that 88% of organizations are still constrained by outdated infrastructure. And so it's not just an IT problem, but it's also a business risk. And so where we step in from the consolidation standpoint of bringing front end and back end to one cloud native platform, again, removing the infrastructure and improving the security, as the print servers are no longer part of the equation. But then again, from a scalability standpoint, you can add in, whether it be through natural growth or acquisition, you can ingest those printers without standing up additional infrastructure. And it's not just a shift from printing more efficiently, but you also enable more business continuity during outages and transitions, and you're also future-proofing your print environment and your output strategy for what's ahead. And so moving to the cloud with Vasion, it's not just a tech upgrade, but it's a strategic transformation that touches security, scalability, user experience, and then most importantly, the bottom line. And then I think I got control over now. Awesome. And so one of the common things that we hear from IT is that they know they need to transition and modernize, but they can't afford disruption because it's the most critical part of the business from a printing aspect, and we understand that. And completely ripping and replacing is not something that we recommend. It's risky, and for large organizations, we get that it's unrealistic. And so our cloud-based output is built for flexibility for staged transitions. And so you can modernize at your own pace, starting with high priority sites or departments or workflows, and ensure that all of testing's happening in a nod prod environment and that it's working as it should before rolling out to production. And so if you also plan to move to an on-prem solution to a cloud-based solution, the for back end, we support hybrid environments as well, meaning that cloud native systems and existing on-prem infrastructure can operate side by side while you transition. So this allows you to maintain security and reliability with your output from both cloud hosted apps as well as legacy systems. And so, in short, Vision enables you to move to the cloud intelligently and not abruptly. And we can tailor roadmaps, based on your organization's pace, your priorities, and we do that. We modernize on your own terms. And so, I will pass it back to Bailey to talk more about the implementation.
Yeah, so the nice thing about Vision Output, as you saw in the demo I gave, is it's really, from a technical standpoint, super easy to set up in your admin interface. The main thing to consider when it comes to implementation is, like Kevin mentioned, what stages do you want to roll out the product with? Do you want to start small and then expand into different departments? What teams might be required to be on these calls when we're talking about setting things up as far as networking, infrastructure, kind of what that looks like. So kind of going through these bullet points here, reviewing your current print and output systems. What service of ours would you leverage? Can your system send an API request? Can it send an LPR job? Or can it send a job over IPP? Identifying connections that are available within your EHR or ERP systems help us determine which service to run. Identifying current compliance and security gaps that maybe we can close for you or just reinforce. And then lastly, of course, identifying team members needed to not only set up Vision Output, but to test with your source application. We want to make sure that you get a good testing or proof of concept of the product. So making sure that those people are involved and aware of what's going on makes that transition smooth. And then lastly, I would like to highlight some resources to support your transition if this is something that you want to look into. You would have your dedicated customer success manager to help with coordinating meetings if you would like to set up the product with someone like myself, a solutions engineer, to help you get things configured, and then as well as Kevin Hill, an account executive, to be on those calls with us. A migration checklist and onboarding guides. We can send documentation to you and step-by-step how-tos to know exactly what to prepare for. And then, of course, you have technical assistance from someone like myself, as well as our support team that's there to help you 24/7 phone call or email support ticket. So yeah, there's a lot of resources for you guys. If you are wanting to sign up, just contact your customer success manager. We'll also send you a recording of this and some links afterward to do the same.
All right, Bailey, Kevin, thank you so much, and thank you to our attendees. The questions have already been coming in. So just a quick reminder, if you have thoughts, if you have questions, concerns, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. I believe we have time to get to a fair number of questions today, but if there's anything that we aren't able to get to, then obviously you can reach out to us directly. We can work with you, with your CSM, to get all of those questions answered. So first question that came in, I am curious what makes you different from other providers. Pretty straightforward question there. A logical place to start. So Bailey or Kevin, or both, if one of you want to take that and kick us off.
Yeah, I can take this one. So a huge differentiator between us and other products is we have a unified platform. Whether it's your ability to just deploy a print queue and a driver to someone's computer in the headquarter office, or manage warehouse label printers, we can kind of help combine that into one solution, one contract, one vendor for all of your needs there. Another huge part of it is we're cloud native. So your ability to manage these services and settings and printers from a cloud portal that is running cloud services with frequent update, well, not frequent updates, but automatic updates, so that you're not having to maintain that. That's a huge differentiator as well.
Kevin, anything to add there?
I don't think I could have said it better than Bailey. But no, I totally agree with everything that she had said. As we're in the healthcare space, being cloud native is a huge win as where we already operate in the front end space to bring in that server side to allow you to manage everything through a single pane of glass is something unique to us.
Excellent. Okay. Next question. You mentioned you can integrate with SAP. Does this integrate with our existing EMR system?
So, yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
No, go for it. You're good. Sorry.
Um, we do have an integration coming with SAP. I would need to know your existing EMR system to know whether or not we support an integration. If it is Epic or Cerner, we can help you out. If it's a different one, go ahead and throw it in the chat and we'll see if we can.
And just to add to that, I know that we've worked with MedTech a little bit, so that's something that we're currently discussing. And there's other one-offs as well. So as Bailey said, if we know the integration and know what that EMR is capable of, if they can do API calls, definitely something that we can explore to see if we can integrate into it.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you are familiar with how that system can send jobs, kind of baseline, can we or can we not support it, is API request, LPR job, or IPP. Epic. Okay. Then yeah, we can definitely have a conversation and look into that. We do have a direct connection with Epic.
Excellent. Thank you for a great question and for the follow-up information. Okay, next, does this work across multi-sites? We have several offices and our IT team is spread out. You know, this is a common one, even on the customer marketing side, working with our customers, we see this situation a lot. So Kevin and Bailey, what have we done in the past to work with people who have multi-sites?
Yeah, so the nice thing about that is our unified interface gives you the ability to sync with cloud identity providers like Entra, Okta, Google, or on-prem domain controller. And then using those identities, you can set up role-based access control to either folders within your console or printers. So you can define at a very granular level access control and what people can do inside of that portal. Even like I showed on the output console, where you can view the print jobs as they come from your ERP to our service. Based on the role or permissions that user has, they may or may not see certain jobs. If they don't have access to see a certain printer, then those jobs won't show. So we definitely have a way for you to segregate permissions and visibility.
Excellent. And any other thoughts, Kevin? Okay. All right. Great.
Yep, Bailey nailed it.
Great question. Great answer. Okay. Next, is Vasion Output the base product? We already had a PrinterLogic SaaS environment upgraded to Vasion. I signed up for this thinking Output may have been separate from what we already have, but I think we are already using your product, LOL. It's a very honest question. Appreciate that one.
So the platform as a whole that you upgraded to is called Vasion Automate. And you might see like your form, workflow, admin, and print interface on the left-hand side rail. Output is an add-on. So unless you had that licensing, you wouldn't be able to set up these services and have access to the output console specifically. So maybe take a look in your interface, and if you have the output section on your left-hand side rail, or if you have that output automation tab for a service client, then you would likely have this licensing already. If not, something we can get on a call and schedule and get those enabled for you if you're looking to test.
Yeah, and I would add to that too. On the healthcare side, it's very common that that our PrinterLogic now Vasion Print is managing your Windows environment or client side printing. Where in some cases we might also be managing Epic print queues on your Epic print servers. Or in other cases, the Epic side might just be server side printing that we don't even touch. And this is where our output, service would come in to be able to now receive those jobs directly from Epic and manage them in a little bit different way. And again, add the benefits that Bailey had mentioned. the additional functionality once we receive that job. We can do something with that, such as secure printing, very common thing coming, out of a EMR that's being asked for from IT leadership. So definitely, depending on Dean, how you're operating in that, I definitely recommend a call with your CS rep, and seeing if, this makes sense to continue the conversation.
Excellent. On minute.
Yes,
So
Dean,
follow.
it
Oh,
is
yeah.
back end printing, correct?
Great questions. All right. It looks like we are at the end of the live questions. Obviously, if you have anything on your mind and you don't want to ask it in this forum, please reach out to your CSM, anybody that you work with here at Vasion. We have this website here where you can go to get more information, to reach out to us. We really look forward to speaking with you about this. It's something that obviously we're very passionate about, and as you can see with Bailey and Kevin, we certainly have some experts to help you out. Excellent, thank you, Dean. And we love that you loved the Legos. Yeah, we had some wonderful little Lego sets that went out to some customers, and that was like I said, we love to interact with our customers. We love that you came today and spent some time with us. So please continue to reach out. We are happy to work with you and make sure that everything that we offer works with your environment specifically. And with that, I think we'll hang around for another minute or so, but feel free to, uh, yeah, reach out to your customer success manager to talk about Legos and output management. Both of them they're like peanut butter and jelly, those two. So, but yeah, thank you again, everyone. And if there's nothing else, then we'll just invite you to have a good day, and we'll see you at the next one.